What is up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new series of ECS Season 8 pre-game interviews, a series where I'll be talking to lots of different players and teams about their upcoming ECS Season 8 games. Today, I have got the absolute pleasure of talking to Golden from Fnatic, who's just been newly announced coming back to the roster. That must be pretty exciting to be coming back to Fnatic, right?
Yeah, definitely. One of the most exciting times for me right now.
Yeah, for sure. So before we talk about Season 8, I just want to go back to ECS Season 7. Obviously, you were over in NA playing for Cloud9. Unfortunately, you didn't make it to the finals in London, but you did finish 8th in the season, which meant that you qualified for this season, and you're coming back in for week 1. What was that like playing for Cloud9 and playing against those NA teams?
It was a very fun time. I got a lot of experience, like everything from personalities, like how to deal with different people, like as a leader, and just playing and having different kind of players around me.
Yeah.
And what kind of player I transformed into for the team. So it was a very was fun, I'll say, and I was treated very well, like with all the living there and all that stuff.
What were, if we can pick up on some of the struggles that you guys had, because obviously you didn't manage to make it to the finals, you did finish 8th, but what were some of the issues that you guys were facing in that roster?
Well, the biggest issue was that I was away for 6 months. I was sick for 6 months, and then the team kind of we were like trying different players or having different players like each month. It felt like, especially for the other guys, I mean, they've been like Automatic and Rush, they've been there for a long time and they've been going to the same thing. I just never thought we found any foundation.
So obviously you're now heading back to join Fnatic, a team that you played on previously in previous years. What was the decision process from coming from Cloud9 back to Fnatic like?
I'm very happy to be with Fnatic again, but I think we have to be careful to not make the same mistakes that we did before. So for me, that's like the only thing that I'm like thinking about, like trying to we're not trying to make the same mistake, have a great foundation from the beginning and just be very clear with each other all the time. And our mentality in being in the right place. But other than that, I mean, we're all excited to be playing together again. Well, mostly I am very excited to play with all of them. Yeah.
So you also mentioned that you grew a lot as a player on your time in Cloud9. You learned a lot of things. What are some of those things you learned that you're going to be bringing to this new Fnatic roster?
There's more of like me being a leader more, because when I joined Fnatic, I came from the academy team, and I saw up to the players a lot, who I was going to join and lead at the same time. I think even though I managed it somewhat, I believe I've experienced more and I've learned and has grown as a human, as also as a player, a lot more. That I can make I have more confidence in myself.
Yeah. So has your role kind of changed or adapted at all since you've come from Cloud9 onto Fnatic, or are you still taking on that role of in-game leader?
I am still the in-game leader.
Is there anything you've kind of particularly learned from facing NA teams, particularly in ECS Season 7? Is there anything you've particularly learned or adapted to bring onto this new Fnatic squad?
No, not really. More than playing situations differently than we have done in the past, and making sure that we win the rounds 100%, and taking less risks.
Yeah,
that's where I'm bringing more.
So, as you kind of said, you were playing on Cloud9 in the previous season, which was just NA teams, and now you're coming back to EU and you're going to be playing against just these EU teams in ECS Season 8. Do you kind of see any difference between the style of teams you're going to be facing, and how are you going to be adapting to that?
I feel like when you play against EU teams, it's more clear what they're gonna do because you have. This is the way I was been playing all the time. It just is more clear what the enemy is gonna do if they do this or like or this. So it's easier to read the EU teams, I would say, because they are more predictable. But the NA teams are, I would say, more unpredictable, but also they take more risk, and the decisions they make sometimes is not. They're less structured in a way, but also not. It's hard to explain, but it's definitely hard to play against EU teams.
Speaking of EU teams, obviously you stood in for NIP for a short while at the major. Unfortunately, you guys didn't make it through to the playoffs in the Mercedes-Benz Arena. But what did you kind of learn from your time there, and what was it like to go from Cloud9 to NIP and be playing with those four guys?
I think I loved my time with NIP. The players and everything, I was treated very well. I just think in game we didn't click as much. It was more of, for me, we needed a clear voice, and everyone needed to be like in the focus. I don't think we were in the focus for that tournament, and yeah, I feel like we just bombed out, and yeah, it didn't work out.
So obviously you're not the only new member of the Fnatic squad. Flusha is also going to be returning to Fnatic. How did that decision come about as well? Was it the same time as yours? Were you involved in any of that?
I think Flusha's decision, him coming back, was made before me. Yeah, definitely in that way. So I don't have a lot of information on how that went. Flusha is an amazing player. You always want on your team, not on the opposite side. I mean, he's the best player I've played with and the best teammate I've had. So, yeah, definitely excited to have him on board.
Yeah, I mean, I'm particularly looking forward to seeing you guys all coming together again. Are you coming into your first week of ECS and the first week of ECS Season 8, I know you've been speaking to me and you've been saying that you're practicing a lot. There's a lot of practicing going on. What are some of the things that you're focusing on as a team coming into this first week?
We've been practicing in a different way, not too much of like practice, like maps against other teams, more of like the theory of things and making. Like, we're starting very easily now, but there's still like a lot for me. That's what I meant earlier. We're preparing we are preparing very smooth, and we're going at it very easily, and not like overdoing it. More so just being on the individual part, on point. We've had a long break, and also they've had a long break, so they're. Like, everyone needs to play more CS, but in the team-wise, it's more of preparation and just setting down the bases before we get in, like, get head out of our. Fucking.
I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, what is it?
Get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
So the practice schedule is different. We're not practicing more maps. We're practicing in a good amount between, like, it's not too little and not too much.
Yeah. And
we're also doing more theory stuff. But we're like, as time goes, we'll practice. We will have more maps to practice against other teams. But right now we're going easy at it. Also, there's gonna be a lot of more structure around how we practice and what the goals are for each week. I think those things are very important for a new team or any team. Yeah, there's some mental stuff that we're gonna go through as well. Can't get too much into that, but yeah, those are our main things.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, as you said, it's so important to be practicing and be preparing, because you're seeing the best teams in the world doing that. I do want to talk about Astralis just briefly. Obviously, we've seen the fall before they came into the major, and then they just absolutely blew, most people's expectations out of the water by going and lifting their third major trophy in a row. As another Scandinavian team from around that kind of area, what do you see in them that maybe you can manipulate, or maybe you can counter with your new Fnatic roster?
We're still in the early days, but I feel like we have a good understanding, like all the players, like all Fnatic guys, they've been playing against them for years now. I mean, since 2014 with old TSM. So they know how they, like everyone, how they play, and we just have to be, I think, more reactive against Astralis and adapting to what they're doing, because that's exactly what they're doing, and it all comes down to who does it better.
Yeah.
That's like the main thing when playing against Astralis, is like adapting to what they're adapting to, and so on.
I mean, I know we've mentioned Astralis, but are there any other EU teams you see as particular rivals, or are going to be particular difficult competition coming into ECS Season 8?
I mean, a lot of teams are on the rise. Some shuffles are happening there and here, so it's very hard to say. But I'll see ourselves like as the underdog right now, and we just need to prove ourselves and prove this roster can work. That's how I see it right now. I don't see anyone as a rival immediately going at it, but I think everyone is good enough to be like in the ECS league, and there's going to be a lot of competition.
So do you think this roster has what it takes to make it all the way and not just get to the ECS Season 8 finals, but to be lifting the trophy?
I think you can do anything you want, really, even it sounds like a cliche. As long as you put your heart out there and just do everything that needs to be done, and you fix the issues, you can talk about the team, like team stuff together. I think going that way and always seeking improvement for the team, maybe not in the season, but next season we will sure be able to lift any trophies. I don't see why we shouldn't lift the trophy. That's how I see it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Golden. It's super interesting to get to hear from you guys ahead of your ECS Season 8 matches. Best of luck to you. And make sure you guys are watching along at home. ECS Season 8 will be starting on September 16th, so make sure to tune in then to see the lovely Golden playing on Fnatic.